Hello everyone, welcome to our today's webinar. My name is Arturo Patiño from the Young Americas Business Trust, and I'm pleased to introduce the speaker of this conference entitled Business Plan, How and Why You Should Write a Business Plan. Our today's speaker is Marcelo Fersman. He has Israeli citizenship, but he is from Rosario, Argentina. Marcelo holds a BA in Business Administration from the Manchester University and is also a specialist in digital accounting. Professionally, Marcelo has been in charge of different accounting areas in companies in Israel. Since 1987, he has been senior lecturer of the Mount Carmel Training Center, Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs, leading international cooperation and workshops in Israel, Latin America, and Africa. Before we get started, I would like to mention that your questions are welcome. You can send them all via chat through our section of questions located on your conference panel, and at the end of this presentation, I will let Marcelo know your doubts so he can answer each of them. Without nothing left to say, I will give the floor to Marcelo. Marcelo, thank you so much for joining us today, and welcome.
Hi Arturo, thank you for inviting me. It's a real pleasure to join again our knowledge with participants from all the world. Good day for you, good evening for us here in Israel. What we are going to do, I'm tempted of saying all the time tonight, because here I'm looking outside and it's night already in Israel. Today, what we are going to do is to try to join together basic tools and first step of the entrepreneur in order to avoid in the future problems that could appear during our business activities. My presentation today is aimed not only to those that have already some business running, but also for those who are planning to start running some new business. And both can enjoy those tools we will debate today, as I said before, in order to try and avoid problems in the future. Yes. There are many issues to be considered. We will see most of them, not only some of them we will see thoroughly, and some of them we will only mention them because we have not got enough time to make a long debate of all of them. But we will see those which I consider the most important and those who can really harm our activities if we don't do it properly. First of all, we will talk about the validation and articulation of the idea for both those who have already a business and those who are planning to run some new business. We will say a few words about the pitch elevator, how we should prepare a business card, self-motivation, etc. You see here most of the topics we are going to talk about. Obviously, you are going to get through my colleagues in the YAP the presentation, and I'm mentioning that if some of you want to go to those topics we didn't have time to see together, you will find here some useful information. Those are some of the topics. We have here more, and let's start. And as Arturo mentioned at the beginning, my advice is that if there is something that you consider that you think you have questions, please write down your question, and at the end we will have time to answer those questions. First of all, I want to say a few words about our motivation, and we have to ask ourselves if really by starting some new business we are in the right place. The first thing we have to do is overcome the fear of failure. In most of the workshops we do, mostly in Latin America, we invest a lot of time in trying to develop some dynamics that will help businessmen to overcome that fear. And we have, for that purpose, we have to answer to ourselves a few questions. What will I do if it doesn't work? Should I be terrified about the idea? What if I lose money? So what? We are investing only money. What if somebody has already tried? That's the most common question that people ask themselves. Why should I succeed in the place that many people have failed? So I must overcome that kind of fear. You may do it by avoid endangering family needs, because sometimes we are convinced we have a very good idea and we do wrong steps, like selling our house in order to finance some business. So that's a basic advice we can give everybody. Avoid doing those kind of steps that will endanger your needs, your personal needs, or to risk the family capital. Why are we doing that business? Maybe because we feel being a businessman is sexy, is attractive. Maybe our parents make pressure on us to open some business. Maybe because we hate the boss in our job, and every morning we say, oh, I'm sick of that boss. I want to open a store and be the boss for myself. Do we think that by having a business we will have free time? Or maybe we envy our friends that have business. That's not the right attitude. What we should do is be convinced that we are doing the right things. Another two more things that we have to do in order to auto-motivate ourselves is, first of all, to prepare an emergency plan in advance. Just in case, what will I do after 6 months if it doesn't work? That is what we call the trial period. And after that, after we know for sure that we want to do it, and we are in the right place, and we have the right idea, etc., we will commit to success, sparing no efforts. We will go on. The first thing we have to do is the validation of the idea, because most of the business, most of the entrepreneurs start something with an idea, and we think it's a good idea, but the idea we recommend has to rely on 3 principles. That the idea excites us. Don't forget that we have to wake up every morning and go to work on that business, on that store, on that shop, and we must find some excitement on it. The idea must be based on something we know good how to do it. It may be a profession, trade, or some experience we had acquired through years of working somewhere. Maybe even for somebody else. We have been working many years as a shoemaker, and one day we decide to open our own business, our private business, but we have the skills to do it. And The idea should respond to what the market calls needs of the market or something that the market wants. Okay? Let's concentrate in needs on the market, because sometimes the market wants something, for example, luxury cars, but they don't really need it. But when the idea is relying on something that the market needs, it means that's another step in our way to success. The next tool, and we are dealing with tools, with using tools, using tools that will assist us in order to have more success. And the next tool is the pitch elevator. What is the pitch? And don't fall into the confusion between pitch and speech. Speech is when I prepare something methodically to speak in front of a big audience. Speech is when I meet somebody, we have something in common, I want to tell him about some idea, something new that we are doing, and we have to have that ability of speaking very shortly. On the other hand, with a big enthusiasm and absolute control about our idea. Why do we call it pitch elevator? Because we have to tell that person about our idea through the time that takes to elevator to climb to 20 floor or 30 floor, let's say 2 or 3 minutes, not more than that. It's very important to start the pitch elevator with some dramatic expression. For instance, hey, Mr. Johnson, how are you? Do you remember me? Do you know that in our city 20% of children don't eat one good meal during the day? Or do you know that 50% of the population here doesn't have running water? Or something dramatic that will capture the attention of the other person. And then we speak about our idea, and the most important is not to finalize the journey, or not to finalize the elevator time with the other guy without inviting him to give us a card business and saying to him, thank you, sir, for your attention. Let me call you in 2 days. Okay? Never say, sir, here is my business card. You are invited to call me if the idea interests you. No. That way, we give him the opportunity to run away from us in case he is not interested. But you know that business is like hunting. All the time, we should be around and make another attempt and another attempt in order to cut the attraction and in order to make the sale. So we will conclude the elevator by saying, the other people, please give me your business card and we will call you in 2 days. Okay, business cards. There are a few things that are very important, like highlighting special qualities that we are bringing to our business. For instance, on our business card could appear the sentence, we sell healthy food, or we are always in time, or try us, it will pay itself, or many kind of expressions that the people that get your business card will know exactly what you are talking about and what is your advantage in comparison to your competitors. You have to highlight your phone number, address, website if you have, and you can emphasize as well the benefit of doing business with you, such as price, quality, location, or warranty. For instance, by saying, don't be afraid to buy. You can get a reimbursement in 3 days. Okay? All this you can write wisely in your business card in order not to do it so full, your business card, but to try the most important data to appear in your business card. We'll talk a few words about the production process. Sorry. And we will see together now a couple of important things during the production process. First of all, we have to be sure about having materials sorry, enough in order to produce our products, and that we can finance those materials, because sometimes we think or we find it interesting buying a lot of raw materials since we got a very good and attractive price, but we have no capacity of financing those raw materials. We have to have a plan in advance. We have to make sure we have capacity enough of the machines and of people who will be able to elaborate those products. We have to be sure about our stock level and to have a safety stock level. Every business defines his stock level. For one who produces furniture, his stock level will be different in comparison to somebody who produces something else. I don't know what now, but every business that produces something must have a safety stock level. Why am emphasizing a business that produces something? Because a business that gives some service, they don't have stock at all. Those were a couple of things about production. The business plan is maybe the core of the whole presentation. The business plan is a document very detailed about our business that includes a summarized executive summary at the beginning that should be on, let's say, 2 or 3 pages, writing all the most important things on that summary, in order that if somebody wants to read, we are granting him the opportunity to see the most important thing of the business without finding himself diving in a very long document. That's the reason we have the executive summary at the beginning of the business plan. Later on, we are explaining all the details about our business, like the production steps, the investment, the budget of the firm, the cash flow during the first year of activities, the staff that we are going to hire, etc., etc., which means all the important things of the business. That business plan becomes our business card, our face, our facade, because On one hand, it allows us to develop and review data that we have thought about already and improve maybe if we have some ideas regarding part of the activities. On the other hand, we can present that business plan to some bank in order to get a loan. That's the importance of making it very thoroughly, very impeccable. It should be well done, and you must take your time in order to prepare properly your business plan. Another point that sometimes we consider it when we start a new firm, a new business. Sometimes we consider it when we are already in business, and we have many reasons to think that by making some wise alliance with another business, it might be similar or not, we are going to get some improvement of our business. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing that. Let's see. That strategic alliance is an association between two or more that they have some resources and experiences. They might be in common, or there might be a pool of resources and experiences. One of them has experience, the other one have resources, and a combination between the two can lead us to something better. For instance, to develop a specific activity that we couldn't develop as a standalone business, strategy for growth or critical size gain. For instance, if we are two similar business, and we have 10% of the market and the other one has 10% as well, joining together or by a strategic alliance, we can gain not only 10 plus 10, we can get 50% of the market by improving some of the processes. And what else can we do by an alliance? Acquire skills to conquer new markets, alternatives. Normally, that kind of alliance is done between competitors or producers of complementary products. You can think about a lot of examples. The most important is to understand that such an alliance should be useful for both parts. But we mustn't forget the danger of knowledge sharing, because if we make some alliance, we can be in danger of losing the strategic flexibility. We share with the other part, with the new part, all our knowledge, same way that he shares with us his knowledge. Sometimes it be dangerous. Now we will talk a few words about the economic analysis. And the first analysis we know, maybe the most popular one, is the SWOT analysis. And the SWOT, and his name comes from strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. We will see it in a diagram in a few seconds. That's a tool for analyzing a situation of a study object. Why do we use that expression, study object? Because the SWOT may analyze a person or a company or even an organization. The important thing is that that analysis provides a diagnosis, and we can make decisions based on the analysis. There are some more kinds of analysis. We are not going to talk about them. We are going to concentrate to say a few extra words about the SWOT, um, for instance, we see that we have a double title. In one hand, we are dividing the 4 parameters into strengths and weaknesses. On the other hand, we are dividing the first 2, the upper 2, as internal analysis, and down we are seeing the external analysis, which means that if I make an analysis of my business, I can perceive strengths and weaknesses. Let's see, first of all, those 2. A strength may be, for instance, low-cost resources. I can buy raw materials much cheaper than our competitors. For instance, if I grow cows and I produce ice cream, I can buy much cheaper milk in order to produce ice cream. This could be a strength. Or if I am a very known and famous restaurant, my strength is that I have 3 Michelin stars, if you know what I'm talking about. And I have a very famous chef in comparison to other, let's call them institutes. I'm talking about other restaurants. That's a strength always in comparison to other business similar in the same field like mine. Weaknesses could be, let's say, our staff doesn't have enough skills to work because all the time I try not to pay good salaries. So I have to compromise all the time and take people who do not have skills properly to work in my business. What else could be a weakness? I don't have trucks to transport my products, so I must base myself all the time on hiring trucks that cost a lot of money. Another weakness may be I don't have enough capital, so all the time I have financial problems and I have to go to the bank to take loans. You know what's the difference between a business that have a big capital and a business that have a small capital? The one that have a big capital doesn't pay interest to the banks mostly. This one that have very short capital has to take all the time, in order to run his business, has to take all the time loans from the bank. And the interest we pay, it's all our profit, the high interest that we pay to the bank. This may be a weakness of our business, but both strengths and weaknesses belong to the internal analysis of our business. We have another 2 parameters that are a way of looking outside my business. And if I look outside and I make an external analysis, I can see both opportunities and threats. An opportunity might be a new market trend, like the trend that we have seen worldwide last decade of eating healthy food. This is a very known trend that could become a big opportunity. For instance, I was in Guatemala running some workshop in innovation, and we met the owner of a very big factory that produces food, And he told us that after many years of eating that fat food, all the population have decided to eat healthy food. This could be a market trend, or another trends, you know, like gluten-free or lactose-free, or eating or not smoking anymore. This could be an opportunity. This could, yeah, it could be an opportunity or a threat. It depends who we are. If we sell cigarettes, it will be definitely considered as a threat. But if we have a restaurant and we forbid smoking inside the restaurant, like in all the world are doing nowadays, it will be an opportunity of increasing people who come to our restaurant. Another kind of opportunity might be a change in economy. Maybe if they increase some tax for import or reduce some tax, maybe technology changes might be an opportunity. The interesting thing is that if it is an opportunity for our business, it should be a threat for another business, like we gave the example of smoking. Another kind of opportunity might be a lifestyle change, like starting exercising. You are perceiving in many parts of the world, people are starting to ride bicycles. And if we are aware of that fact, we can start and be the first to import bicycles from the United States, as an example. This will be considered as an opportunity. We will move now to look together after some kind of tools that we use in everyday life in our business, and those tools assist us to make right decisions. First of all, the accounting. Obviously, the accounting is more than a basic tool. Everybody should understand if he wants to have a normal and formal business. Formal, I mean that we pay taxes to the government. We must understand and we must know some of the terms in accountancy, like opening or closing balance of some account means how much time we have in cash at the beginning of some period and at the end. Or we must know that the trial balance is a list of all the accounts in our business, and getting from the accountant the trial balance means getting a list that we can see how much electricity we pay during some period, how much money we have on our bank account, how much money we have sell during some period, or how much transportation we have paid, how is the size of the capital we have invested during the last 3 years, etc., etc. That's a trial balance. Then we have financial indicators like liquidity. We must understand about taxes, what kind of taxes we pay in our business, and gross and net profit. I don't want you to be accountants, but we all of us, we must understand, in order to have control of our business, we must understand at least that there is some work called accounting, and somebody has to do it. And it's better if we understand in order to analyze all the data we get from the books, from the accounting books. Cost study is a very, very, very important thing. We must have absolute control to know what's the unit cost of the products we produce or the services we sell in our business. Knowing the unit cost, it means, what is this? Sorry. Knowing the unit cost, it means that we must take all the expenses we have in our business, and by some technique of dividing the expenses into the amount of products or services we grant to the customers, by dividing it, we know the unit cost. We have to learn how to do it. It's not so difficult. For instance, if we are doctors and all our expenses are renting some place, for consulting, and having a car to move from one place to another, and our salary. It's not that easy. I know how many hours of consulting I grant to my customers, let's say, and by dividing all the expense into the hours of work, I know how much I should, sorry, it doesn't mean how much I should have for 1 hour. It means how much it costs to me. And by knowing that, for instance, that 1 hour of consulting cost me $75, including all the expenses and considering all the direct and indirect expenses, I know that I can charge for 1 hour, for instance, let's say $120 or $200 or $300. It depends on you and what kind of tool, of extra tool, you have to decide how much to charge people that are coming to get your service. First of all, you have the tool of having absolute control of the unit cost. You know for sure how much it costs you 1 hour of giving your service. Then the second tool you have is by comparing to the market. How much other doctors or other architects or other, you name it, accountants, how much they charge for an hour. At this point, you can do 2 things. You can say to yourself, okay, I know it cost me $75. I know that the others charge between $120 and $250. I want to take some average figure. For instance, $200. This is one way to do it. Another way to decide how much to charge for my service is using the concepts of the blue and red ocean. That concept defines that we are standing alone in the world. And what I want to do is ignore absolutely our competitors, and that by adding extra and unique values to my service or to my product, I can ignore how much my competitors charge for a product or for a service. For example, let's take the same example that we have started. I am a doctor. I know that it costs me $75. I know that the average tariff is between $120 and $250. But according to the blue ocean and red ocean principle, I consider myself unique. Why? Because I've studied in the Sorbonne in France, and I brought to my country some new techniques that are not known at all in my country, and I see myself unique, and I even write it everywhere. And I can sell my service for $300 or $400. It's a risk acting according to the blue ocean principle, because you can have big success if you are really good and if you were really able to introduce extra values to your service or to your product, but the same way you can fail. Those were a few words about the cost study. What is a cost study? What do we use it for? And there is something else that I want to say a few words about it. That's the break-even point. The break-even point is the point. Sorry, 1 second. Sorry. The break-even point is the point that we have no profit and not loss. That what we sell is the same amount of our expenses during that period. And it have many meanings. We are not going to enter to the break-even point. I just, in order to remember that you have heard it, I am mentioning it. If we had 2 days where we will have a big debate about the break-even point and the cost study, but just remember what it means. There are a few things you see that I pass that you will be able to see later. You can get the presentation through our colleagues in the YAPT, and later on you will be able to see things that I skipped. A budget. A budget is a very important thing in a business, and since a budget is a plan for a defined period of time, and since it is a quantitative expression, we can use the budget for many things. It may include planned sales volumes, cost, expenses, assets, liabilities, and cash flow. I want to explain that. We can prepare a budget out of our sales. How much? It's a plan mostly for 1 year. How much I'm planning to sell during the months. In January, I'm planning to sell 200 pieces. In February, 320, etc., etc. On the other hand, we may have a budget of the acquisitions of raw materials, let's say. So I know how much raw materials I'm going to buy during the year. I can prepare a budget, and big firms, big business prepare budgets for everything. I'm going to prepare a budget for the cash flow. We are going to see in a minute the cash flow and the importance and how do we do it. And the budget is a strategic plan that may be implemented in organizations, activities, or even a private person in measurable terms. Why am I writing here a private person? Because I can tell my wife, or my wife can tell me, you know, our budget for grocery during 1 month should be $300, and our budget for buying clothes during 1 year should be not more than $2,000. And by having a budget, a person or an organization, and now we are dealing with organizations, not with private persons, an organization may make a master plan of all the activities of the business. We have mentioned that we may have a budget for sales. We have mentioned that we may have a budget for acquisition of raw materials, and we can have a budget for all the other expenses. By using those budgets, we can make the master budget, that you can call it cash flow or you can call it master budget, but it will definitely help you in terms of needs of money, or in the contrary, in terms of extra money that you have in some peaks of the year, and so you will be prepared for everything, for the need of money or for having some extra money that you can invest in many kinds of things. We have two kinds of budgets. We have a short-term, mostly short-term is up to 1 year, and we have a long-term, mostly for big companies. We have a main budget, as I mentioned before. The cash flow is one of the main budgets, and we have auxiliary budgets that help us to make together all those budgets and make the master budget. The cash flow, that is one of the most important budgets, is a state presenting of a basic financial movement of the money that enter and leaves the company during some period, and the cash we had at the end of that period. We must, we can put many columns in the cash flow in order to have the information sorted, like cash flow for sale, for collecting debts, for paying to suppliers, cash flow, investments that we have. But using those columns, we can get sorted information that is very important to know, that information and the closing balance of every kind of activity that is reflected in the cash flow. There are a couple of more things that we have talked about. Provide for the cash needs and how to meet them adequately and timely. The next issue I want to talk about is the risk management. And risk, what's the meaning of the risk? Is a probability that some incident will cause damage to our business, and as a consequence of the damage, we will have loss in the organization, or to the staff of the organization, or to the assets, or to the reputation of our business, and it will, you know, hinder the achievement of the strategy on the operational and financial objectives of the business. That's the reason I should know what are the risks on the field that we act, on the kind of business that we have, and if there are any measures in order to reduce the damage. I have to be able of defining the points of vulnerability of my business. For instance, I want to give you an example of vulnerability. If my business is based on mass labor, for instance, I have a factory and I have many people working for me. And if there is some disease, like sometimes some epidemic, we can find ourselves in a big problem. What other kind of vulnerability? Let's say if I base myself in the agriculture, I make some product based in bananas, and one year there is a big insect that eats all the bananas production in the country. What should I do? Am I prepared to that kind of incident? I have to be prepared for something like this. For instance, how can I prepare myself to make an insurance? You know that there are many kinds of insurances that sometimes we say, no, we can save the money. We don't have to insure ourselves for disasters of this kind. But this kind of insurance could save us in case of such vulnerability, you know, almost brings us to bankruptcy. How unwanted events. Okay, let's see some of the risks. Regulatory non-compliance, reputation or image risk. Let's say that we sell pizza, and some clients in front of the other clients comes back and says, I have a piece of glass on my pizza. Or I can give you an example of my private life. My wife's father is a doctor, and he had some expertise on acupuncture, those needles. And like 15 years before, or 20 years before, when the AIDS started, suddenly, one day, in the middle of the day, he heard about the AIDS, and nobody came again to this clinic. And it didn't take 1 year or 2 years to evolve this problem. In one day, suddenly, he didn't have even one client after working 20 years in acupuncture. Risk of illegal or criminal acts, supplier risk. That's a very good example. If we base ourselves only in one supplier and we buy only from one supplier, why? Because we love him, because he gives us very good prices and very good qualities. But one day he goes into bankruptcy, and since we base ourselves only on him, we have to start to develop or to find other suppliers. Climate risk or human resources. Those are many kinds of risks that we have to think in advance in order to avoid problems. Opening a business, we are moving now to some new issue, requires endless paperwork. For instance, sanitary authorization. And I'm giving you an example again of food. And if our company carries out production, import, processing, packaging, storage, and sale of food products for human use, we must get some specific authorization by the Ministry of Health. That's only one example of the paperwork needed that we have to make in advance, not rent some place and then start thinking about the formalization I need in front of all the institutes that give me all the permissions. Obtaining the municipal license. And now we will say a few words about the insurance. We have mentioned it already, and is a very, very, very important issue to cover ourselves, circumstantially, of course, and accordingly to the kind of business we have. Okay? We have the owner insurance, like in case of fire, if I was not prepared and I am not covered by an insurance, I can lose all my capital. Property insurance, personal liabilities, it's relevant, the personal liability, no, okay. For other circumstances like damage to somebody fall in our business and he broke a leg, and we have to make it up for him and pay him some indemnization. So we have to have some insurance for that. Professional liability. If I am a doctor, for instance, or an accountant, and I give wrong advice for somebody, and he lost all his money because of negligence, or you name it, or error, he can sue me, and it depends where you live. For instance, in the United States, it is considered to be one of the most important insurance they sell in the United States, since the sky is the limit. If you are a professional and you are sued for negligence, you can lose everything for that. And as I said, the sky is the limit there in their system. And there are many other kinds of insurance that we can buy. Okay. There is also important regarding the trademark registration. And I want to include on the definition of trademark the name of your company. You have to register it, and the registration of your trademark or your name should meet certain requirements. For instance, you cannot produce any soda drinks and call yourself Coca-Cola because it already exists. And you cannot call yourself, for instance, Aruba drinks, in case we are producing on the Caribbean, because as you see, signs that reproduce or imitate the shields, flags, emblems of municipal, provincial, and state, or the name of the state, you cannot call your business with the name of your state, and you cannot register a name or a trademark which is contrary to law, public order, or morality. For instance, I cannot open a business and call it Marcelo let's steal together, or let's make a big chaos, or okay, because it's contrary to public order in this case. So you must take into consideration that when you register your trademark or your name, and you have to register, it cannot be contrary to law, public order, or morality. Okay, that's a definition of the trade name, that is a sign identifying a company in the trade, etc., etc. We see a few examples here. For instance, of McDonald's, the trade name and the trademark, including Burger King, Honda, and Volvo. Okay? And the last issue I want to deal with is registration in Chamber of Commerce or other institutes that might be in your countries as a legal entity, because every one of us that wants to open some business has to register himself as a legal entity. And basically there are a lot of legal entities, but we will see the most important that divide the registration in two main kinds. The first type of a company is a natural person that mostly professional people like doctors and lawyers and architects, etc., that base their business in some personal skill or ability. They open that kind of company, assuming by opening that kind of company all the rights and obligation of the activities exercised in the business. On the other hand, we have the legal person that is a fictitious person. It's only a name, that behind that name are the owners of the entity, but the person itself is fictitious, and it is capable of exercising rights and obligations, sue and be sued by anybody, including the owners. Okay, the owners work for that legal person, and they can even sue their legal person. There are many documents needed in order to make that registration. When we come to the Chamber of Commerce or some other institute, it depends on every country. And for instance, we have a proof of payment fees to the state. Everything costs money in order to register ourselves. The identity document of the person on a natural person case, and we're talking about the legal person, other documents that prove that we want to open such a entity, and other kinds of tax forms. And as I said before, I say again, all those regulations are specific, defined in every country. The most important thing to understand now and to remember is that by opening an entity, there are a lot of documents and a lot of legal acts to do in order to start the business and before starting the business. And as everything in life, each one of those definitions have advantages and disadvantages. For instance, a natural person The benefit, the first benefit is the constitution of that natural person is fast with minimal documentation, no need for increased legal fees. It can be easy liquidated or sold. Everything is one hand. The ownership, the control, and the management is on one person's hand, and the enlargement or reduction of the equity is very easy. Those are the benefits or the advantages of a natural person. The disadvantages are that we have unlimited liability, that in order to guarantee the activities of the natural person, all the debts of our business will be covered in case of bankruptcy by our personal assets. Okay, this is a very, very important point that we should take into consideration. On the other hand, we may say, okay, but since I am only one person, I have very limited activities. It depends on you, but we must remember that all the debts will be covered by our personal assets. They can take our house, our car, our bank account, etc. The second disadvantage of being a natural person is that we will definitely have limited capital since only one person is investing. Banks will find themselves in the position of they don't want to grant you financial credit, okay? And the last point is there is a lack of continuity in case of incapacity of the owner. If the owner dies, for instance, the natural person business ends the moment he wants to leave, or he dies, or other kind of incapacity of running the business. The legal person, let's see the benefit of the legal person. Limited liability for the debts of the company, guaranteed only by its capital. It means that if the three of us invest $10,000, the maximum we can lose in case of bankruptcy will be those $10,000, and the government or the banks or the suppliers cannot touch my private property. Increase availability of capital, since many people are acting in that kind of business, many people are investing capital, and it allows us to run a bigger activities. Greater opportunities to access credits, and one of the biggest advantages that people really consider it is that the owner and the partner on that field, you cannot see it's hiding down. They can be workers of their own firm. They can get salary of that firm in comparison to the natural person that since he owns the firm, he cannot get a salary of the firm, only withdraw profit of the firm. But in a legal person, the owner and a partner of the legal person can get a salary of the firm. The disadvantages of the legal person First of all, we have a greater difficulty to establish it, and we have to base our books on a double entry accounting, which is more complicated and it costs more money. There are greater restrictions to expand or reduce the equity of the company, which means if some new partner wants to join the company, or some existing partner wants to leave the company. There are some restrictions regarding it. It's more difficult. It's more difficult to liquidate or dissolve a legal person, and and that's it. Basically, we have other things that you will be able to see in my presentation that in our limited time we couldn't see everything, but the most important thing in opening a business is not being afraid to lose, not being afraid to basically to lose money, because everything loses. I can tell you, for example, if I talk about some policy in the United States, I heard a friend that told me that he sent his CV to one big firm in the United States, and he wrote that he had a business and he went into bankruptcy, and still they hired him, and they told him when he came, they told him, aren't you surprised that although you went in bankruptcy, we are hiring you? And he said, yes, indeed, I'm surprised. And they told him, you know why? Because we think it's better to take something that knows that failure is definitely an option. Not all the time we can write in the book of our lives that we have great success. Some you win, some you lose. But what all of us must do is not to be afraid of trying things. And this is a tip that I can give you. Another tip that you have all the time to be alert, and all the time to study, and all the time to compare yourself, and all the time to make an analysis of your business and try to improve your activities, and not instead of thinking, okay, everything is running according to my expectancy, I can keep doing the same or more of the same for 100 more years. No, we should be all the time on the edge, looking around. And I want to thank the Yapt and Arturo for giving me this platform to share with you some interesting and useful things. And now, if you have some questions, Arturo.
Thank you so much for your words, Marcelo. I think this topic is definitely crucial for the entrepreneurs who want to start developing their projects and ideas. A business plan will let us find strategies that we can implement for the improvement and efficiency of our inside and outside processes of our business ideas. So, as you said, I think now it's time for us to pass to the section of questions and answers. We have received some of them. I'm going to start reading, and after each of them, I will give you the floor so you can answer. The first one says, how can I successfully identify the needs of the market Is there any strategy for that?
Well, that's a very wide and and big issue, the needs of the market, because we have to identify first of all what is the segment I want to act in, because there are many segments in the market. I cannot use what we call the total market and say that I want to sell to the all markets. First of all, I have to identify the segment I want to sell to, and then there are many ways of identifying the needs. Just a second, sorry. One of the best ways is by survey. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it properly. You know, like for instance, if I go again to that example that I want to sell ice cream, some special ice cream, and one of the strengths of my business is that I have a raw material very cheap. So I can go to supermarkets. If my product is selling ice cream, I can go to supermarkets and offer people to taste what I want to do. This is one of the ways, but it's a very complicated issue to speak about marketing and identifying needs of the marketing. So I am afraid that I will not be able to answer in a few minutes that question. Sorry.
It's okay, Marcelo. Thank you. Our next question says, regarding the danger we have by sharing our ideas, once we had the pitch elevator with the person we want as a stakeholder, what is exactly the information of our business plan that we have to share with him?
You mean in case of some alliance with another business?
Yes, I think.
Okay, if I understand the question, you are talking about a strategic alliance with another business. I think that in this case, it's a kind of negotiation. I haven't got a formula that I can tell you what will be the proper things to share and to obtain from the other side. What I what I really can tell you is that is a kind of negotiation. That negotiation, it's based on your needs, because every side has some specific needs. For instance, I am going willingly to that alliance because I am not having capital enough. On the other hand, he is coming to that alliance because he thinks that that my staff have skills and abilities that his staff has not. And as part of the negotiation, I have to find the way of obtaining the biggest profit for me. It's every kind of negotiation. For instance, it's like I want to sell a car, and it's also a negotiation. It relies in so many things, that negotiation, that you have first to analyze what do you want to obtain, but this alliance, and then start negotiation. And you know, as in every negotiation, you have to start very, very low and give and give the minimum you can give to the other part, and the other side will do the same. As you will get some approach of you know, all the time giving up some one more point in order to meet in the middle somewhere.
Okay, thank you. Our last question, I think, is how related is the fact that the liquidity of a business affects directly the control that we have of possible external changes and unexpected situations?
Again, please, again.
Yes, sure. It says, how related is the fact that the liquidity of a business affects directly the control that we have of possible external changes and unexpected situations?
Wow. That's a very peculiar question. Okay. First of all, if we understand what is liquidity, liquidity is the most important source of vital life of our business. Liquidity is having enough money to run our business. And obviously, a lack of liquidity will affect directly our profit level, because having a lack of liquidity means we will need external capital constantly in order to make everything in our business. Lack of liquidity may be caused by many things. For instance, having invested a very short amount of capital at the beginning, or having lost for many years, and that loss has consumed part of the money of the business. Anyway, I am coming back from the what I started with, that a lack of liquidity will bring a big difficulty of running the business, and we will very fast find ourselves needing big money to run the business. And that's the way it affects the business, because if I had enough capital, I wouldn't need the external money.
Okay, Marcelo, thank you. Well, so far I think these are the questions that we have. Let's wait a few seconds more so we can know if there is another question. No, I think that's it. I think that was our last question. Thank you so much for joining us today. We remind you that there will be other webinars scheduled for the next weeks. So we kindly invite you to register to all of them. Marcelo, thank you so much for sharing with us your knowledge, and thanks to the audience for having us today.
Thank you very much, and have a nice day and a nice weekend.
Have a nice day there. See you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.